end of the presentation for you guys that ask any questions. I'll give you guys a couple minutes towards the end. So if you have anything that pops up, go ahead and write it down towards the end. I'll give you guys some time to ask any questions you might have regarding Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, certification path, or anything that I may have forgot to cover during the presentation. So with that being said, let's get started. Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Sean Mitchell. I work for ATG Learning. I'm an instructor here. Been with the company here now for almost 2 years. And I have, had a lot of experience, exposure, actually in the industry, implementing a lot of the things that I also teach here at ATG. I'm certified in several different technical certifications regarding CompTIA, Microsoft, Cisco, have about 25 certs and counting. So not only am I certified, Microsoft certified trainer, but I do have experience in the field actually implementing a lot of these technologies and tools that we are going to talk about. One being cloud architecture and virtualization. I did start with a last position of managed service provider. So I've had exposure working for several different organizations, from logistics to warehousing to food manufacturing, and everybody has different IT needs and different ways that they would like to kind of streamline or implement technical information and IT needs in their particular organization. So hopefully I can, if you guys do decide to take a class here with ATG, I can give you guys some real world scenarios on how some of these technologies would actually be used and implemented in an organization. And let's talk about Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. As you can see here, this is a fundamentals entry-level exam, meaning that you don't need any prerequisites to get into taking this particular exam. Anybody that's looking to get into IT, that has an interest in cloud technologies, we'll talk about exactly what a cloud here is in a second. You don't need to have any previous IT experience or knowledge in order to take this exam. In fact, this is one of the first exams that you'll take to get into your IT career. And upon accomplishing this exam, you actually get what's called a MTA, Microsoft Technology Associate certification. So you'll have that on your resume along with your Azure Fundamentals certification, so that a lot of these job seekers can see that, hey, this person is serious about IT. They've taken the first step into wanting to learn about some of the new technologies that are offered, and they have a basic fundamental understanding of the cloud technology, specifically Azure, Microsoft's cloud technologies. Let's talk about the exam, Azure Fundamentals AZ900 exam. This exam is composed of between 40 to 60 questions, in which you'll have about 85 minutes to accomplish taking this exam. And a passing score between 0 and 1,000, you need to get at least a 700 or above. So that's a 70% or above to pass this exam. So it's pretty attainable. It's not, an 85, 850, like, some of the other exams as you get further and further down this list, especially when you get to expert level, they expect you to have a little bit of a higher score. But the fundamentals is, 700. Hey, I understand these concepts, understand these terminologies, I can define these words and pretty much be certified in taking your first step into hopefully moving on to more of a specific role-based certification path on your next level. Again, you're going to get a 1-star certification from Microsoft in any of these fundamentals, 2 stars for the role-based, and specialty or expert level, you're going to get 3 stars. The exam cost is $99. And again, there is no prereq for any of the fundamental level exams. You can come in, you can take the exam without any previous knowledge or any previous certifications. Now, when you get over to these role-based Azure Administrator Associate, or this Security Engineer Associate, which we'll discuss, a little bit in detail on exactly what goes into these, on top of what goes into Azure Fundamentals, you are going to need a prereq, right? And the prereq is any of these fundamental exams up here. So in order for you to take the Azure Administrator or Security Engineer, you need to have passed your Azure Fundamentals before you can move on to any of the specific role-based or job-based. I like to replace the word role with job-based technical roles that you would have in an organization. Hey, I'm an administrator. I'm going to be the one implementing and managing some of the components that go into the Azure cloud or Azure security. I'm going to be the person responsible for making sure I give appropriate access to subjects and objects in my organization. Subjects being users, objects being the entity that they're trying to access, whether it's a server or a file on the network or in the cloud. So these are specific to what you would be actually doing in the environment if you decided to go into any of these role-based testing scenarios. Again, fundamentals, smack here in the middle, saying that, hey, I understand the core concepts of what goes into Azure. And then from there, you kind of branch out into your specializations, right? You want to be specialized in, again, we were talking about Azure Administrator Associate up here. This is the person that's going to implement and manage and monitor the Azure environment in your network. So I'm the person that's responsible, almost like a systems admin, right? Azure is basically replacing some of the Microsoft's previous certifications, right? You have the Microsoft MCSA Solutions Associate, Microsoft MCSE Solutions Expert, and some of these certifications are going to be going away towards the end of this year, and they're trying to push people towards, a new path, which is Azure. So these are nothing more than concepts that you probably, if you're in IT, that you probably already do on an on-premise environment, meaning that the infrastructure is there and you can actually access it or walk up to it and log into the machine, reboot the machine, physically press the button, right? Or when we're talking about going to Azure Cloud, now we're talking about, hey, these infrastructure, this equipment has now been moved to somewhere else that's not actually on-premise. So Azure has one, Microsoft has one in the cloud, AWS has one, Linode has one, Google Cloud has one. All these different organizations have ways in which they offer services, right? Specific services to organizations so that they don't have to manage it in-house. They can save power, they can save on space that it takes for the servers, to take up in a rack or a data center in an organization. There's a lot of benefits to moving to the cloud. So let's get into what are you going to learn with Azure Fundamentals Bootcamp course and the objectives. I like to call these modules. There's about 5 modules that go into Azure Fundamentals Bootcamp. And these modules are basically chapters that are going to be talking about different concepts that you will need to understand and learn so that when you actually get on the job or you're actually making phone calls to Microsoft and Azure and they're asking you, hey, what can we offer you? What do you need? Right? And Microsoft's, hey, we offer SaaS, we offer PaaS, we offer IaaS. You have to understand what these are. What are these and how can my specific organization use these? Because you're going to be responsible for understanding some of these fundamental concepts. So SaaS stands for Software as a Service, which basically means that, hey, I'm calling Microsoft and I need them to offer me a specific service. What type of service does my company need? Well, Software as a Service, meaning that Microsoft actually has created some type of software that is going to be utilized for my organization, and I don't have to be responsible for particularly managing that software or adding new things to that software, or changing the look and feel of that software. Meaning Microsoft already has that software out, and I want to take advantage of that software and use it within my organization. So a prime example of that would be Office 365, right? That's something that a lot of organizations use now for email. You might use it for other Office applications like Excel, Visio, PowerPoint, Word. All of these different types of applications are something that Microsoft offers as a service, and I can't change the look and feel of it. I can't create new queries within these applications. I can't create new things that the applications can do. I can't change the color, add new features. Whatever Microsoft has created, that's what I get. That's a software as a service. So software as a service will be something that, hey, they contact me, hey, Sean, we need software that's going to allow us to send email. We need some software that's going to allow us to create Word documents. We need some software that's going to allow us to create Excel. Can you call somebody to find out if there's some software out there that has these features that we could use? I'm going to call Azure and I'm going to say, hey, do you guys have a software as a service that has these features? And they're going to say either yes or no. Now we move to platform as a service. This means that, hey, you can't change the look and feel of it. Maybe you have an application in-house, say an SQL database. And the SQL database you guys manage in-house. So you can change the look and feel of it because you manage the SQL database, but the database is actually stored in the cloud, platform as a service. And then we move to infrastructure as a service. That's like, I need the entire ability to manage not only the software, not only the software, but I also want to be able to manage the infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning I want to install the operating system, I want to update the server, I want to patch it, I want to make sure security is okay on my infrastructure, my equipment. You have a lot more responsibility with an infrastructure service. So it depends on how much you want to be able to manage things as a service in the cloud. And there's a lot more than just these three services, right? There's one that's called XaaS, anything as a service, because there are so many services: security as a service, networking as a service, desktop as a service. It's basically replacing people's jobs, and they're outsourcing it as a service to a cloud vendor, right? Cloud vendor being somebody that's off-site, no longer on-premise. And with these off-site cloud vendors, we got public, private, hybrid cloud. So public cloud is going to be something that anybody has access to, right? I might have like a car dealership where I'm selling cars, say Auto Trader, right? And I want people to be able to access that website. That would be a public cloud. Anybody has access to that cloud. Private cloud, internal employees only. You have to authenticate before you gain access. Hybrid clouds in between. Maybe I want some things to be in the cloud, but maybe I want some of the things to be private. Benefits of a cloud, well, I was mentioning some of those earlier, as such as it's off-premise, meaning that I don't have to manage the power, I don't have to manage the space availability. Some of the other great benefits are the capital cost of starting up a business. Say I'm an entrepreneur and I want to start up a business, and I don't have the money, I don't have the capital up front to spend $20,000 on a server, right? $20,000 on a Windows machine, another $10,000 on a firewall, and $5,000 on some type of unified threat management monitoring system. That's going to cost me a lot of money to start up my business and be able to get storage, RAID arrays and all that kind of stuff. But with the cloud, I have access to all of that infrastructure, and I can pay a pretty small fee, say $199 a month, to have access to all of that equipment and the resources to manage that equipment. So that's a great benefit, right? All I'm worried about now is just the operational cost, right? I don't have to have the capital up front to be able to afford to start up my company. I can just pay $199, and I have to worry about a monthly $199 cost to be able to support my company and my infrastructure. Talk about elasticity and scalability. Well, that's a great benefit of cloud, that I can either increase or decrease the resources on my particular infrastructure or my computer equipment. Say my server is being taxed with a lot of people coming in, looking at my website, and I need to be able to elastic or basically expand the resources on a machine so that they can accommodate a number of those people onto that particular server. Elasticity allows me to do that. Scalability also is going to allow me to have the ability to scale up or ramp up my business very quickly, or scale down very quickly. Say during the holiday season, I need to add 1,000 users to a floor in my particular building. I work for an organization where we had to scale up users around the holiday season, call center, and it was easier to do so by having a cloud infrastructure implemented in an organization. I don't have to worry about sending people downstairs, setting up desktops, configuring, making sure the memory and CPU and everything, the CPU fan is working, right? I just need a dummy terminal like a Wise box. And all I need to do is connect to the cloud resource, and that's where all my infrastructure and my equipment lies. And I can spin up a VM within a couple minutes, right? I can create several VMs within a couple minutes. So affordable entry, right? Low cost, and I pay per use. Maybe I'm only using 500 machines during the month of December, but maybe January comes and that holiday season's gone away, and now I have 200 machines. So I don't have to continue to pay to support all of those resources if I'm not using them. So they have something, we get to looking at the cost, which is one of the modules here, where you can actually go onto the Azure's website and you can actually pay per hour. So it's very affordable moving to the cloud, and it's kind of a no-brainer. You're going to save money moving to the cloud, having the latest technology, rather than having to update your equipment every year, because that's going to be expensive. Core Azure services, moving on, module 2. There are several components that make up the Azure platform, right? And when we log into the Azure platform, which you guys will get exposure to logging into that via hands-on labs, you're going to see some of those components. You got to select the data center. Which region is your data center going to be located? Obviously, you want to select a data center that's close to your specific region. The United States, yes, that's a region, but the United States is broken down into many other regions, depending on what you're on the West Coast, East Coast. There are data centers that are closer to you, which are going to give you better performance, rather than a data center that's further away. Availability zones for redundancy. We're going to talk about most of these data centers or these zones that you're going to be a part of. They're going to have 3 data centers that are going to be replicating your data to other data centers in case one of those data centers is disrupted by some type of natural disaster. You can rest assured that your data is going to be at another location. Resource groups. Well, resource groups is just another way to say, hey, how can I manage all of my equipment? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to create a group of all the resources. I mean, resources in your organization could be anywhere from networks, right? Switches and routers, machines, specifically virtual machines, storage, data, where your data is going to be stored. And you're going to create a resource group. So you could have one resource group for an office in Atlanta and another resource group for another office in Jacksonville. And anything you put in that resource group, you're going to be able to click on that little group within Azure, and you can manage adding new machines to Jacksonville, adding more storage to Jacksonville, adding, different VLANs, or managing networks, security groups within Jacksonville's office, and you can click on Atlanta. So it's an easy way for you to kind of subdivide or, create little folders for your equipment. Compute, right? Talking about these core Azure services, components. We're going to work with virtual machines. And what is a virtual machine? Well, a virtual machine basically is an isolated instance of a user's desktop or an isolated instance of a server. And you can take anything that's physical and you can migrate it to a virtual machine. So you're not going to physically have a machine in front of you that has, say, a CPU, RAM, hard drive, but all of that's going to be in the cloud. So they'll actually be residing within Azure's cloud. And you'll be able to log into Azure's portal, and you'll be able to spin up a virtual machine. You'll be able to create resources, give it memory, give it CPU cores, give it hard drive space. And you're going to see in some of the hands-on labs exactly how that is done and why it's a little bit more stable, I would say, than a physical machine. Because, you know, with physical machines, we got things that can actually die. Meanwhile, with virtual machines, we have redundancy with the actual host that the virtual machines reside on. And we have the ability to scale up or scale down with these VMs, you know, call it hot swapping some of the devices, dynamically adding memory, dynamically adding more hard drive space without having to power down the device. Storage. We're going to be talking about adding storage and creating blobs, right? Basic storage is not accessed all the time, and you can pay less amount of money for a blob storage than an active storage where files are actively read and written to each and every day. So there's different types of storage that we're going to be able to manage, and we're going to be able to talk about the fundamental concepts of storage. And Docker and Kubernetes. These are different types of, I would say, another type of virtual machine. Docker being a container is an application that allows you to create containers. And with these containers, the benefit with these over a virtual machine is, again, they're isolated just like virtual machines, but they're incredibly fast and they're incredibly lightweight because the kernel that they share the same kernel. So if I create a Docker container and I create several applications on top of that container, as long as the kernel, which is the operating system, is the same, I can create multiple Dockers or multiple containers. Kubernetes is a way that we can basically manage several containers by using some type of automation that Kubernetes offers. So we'll get a little bit of exposure to creating containers through Docker. But again, Docker and Kubernetes, these are entirely, I would say they're other certifications. You can get specialized certifications in being a Docker administrator and Kubernetes administrator. So there's a lot more to that, but we're just going to kind of touch the surface on these concepts within Azure Fundamentals. Moving over to core services, we have Azure solutions such as IoT. IoT Hub. What is IoT? Internet of Things. And Internet of Things is basic devices that we use, everyone uses. I mean, I'm sure everybody has an Amazon Alexa or some type of smart device at their house, such as like a smart thermostat, something where it allows you to manage it through connecting over the internet. It's an Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things Hub is going to be a way that we can manage several devices in one central location. Say I want to turn the lights on floors 1 through 20. Internet of Things Hub is going to allow me to do that and have a place to manage all these smart devices in one location. DevOps, Azure Apps, or some other solutions or other services that are offered within Azure Cloud. We'll also talk about some of those and other management tools such as Azure Advisor, which is basically a tool that's going to send you recommendations, notifications, alerts. Hey, we recommend that you increase your hard drive space. You're getting ready to run out of space on this particular server. Right? You read the recommendation. Hey, your network is being taxed. We recommend that you increase your cap, your data cap. So Azure Advisor is going to give you all these kind of recommendations to kind of proactively make sure that you're on top of things in your organization and you see the problems before they actually become issues or incidents in your organization. Azure Portal managed via CLI and PowerShell. So CLI is command line interface. PowerShell is this type of command line interface. that Windows specifically uses, such as like your CMD command line interface. And yes, you can go into Azure Portal. You can manage it via the GUI, graphic user interface, or you can go into Azure Portal and you can run different scripting commands. So we're going to get exposure to doing both, right? You might create a virtual machine using the Azure Portal and click here, next, like a wizard. And then it might walk you through how would you create a virtual machine via command line interface or via running PowerShell, because these are a lot more powerful than the GUI base. It's a lot easier for you to run a script to create 50 virtual machines than you actually go through a GUI interface and do it 50 times. So it'll benefit you in the long run, and you'll see a lot of jobs are requesting that you actually know a little bit of scripting, right? Because they want you to be able to automate tasks. They want you to be spending 2 hours creating something that you could take 2 minutes to do, writing a script. So we're going to talk about that, and we'll have some hands-on labs with some of those commands. Moving on, Module 4, Security, Privacy, and Compliance. So we're going to talk about here CIA, defense in depth, briefly for time's sakes, confidentiality, integrity, availability. This has to deal with, what we call the CIA triad, right? It's a security concept. Basically meaning that, hey, if my organization has confidentiality, meaning the data is encrypted, if it has integrity, meaning that the data remains unchanged, unmodified, and it has availability, meaning that I can log into my machine when I need to use it, it's always available, then I have a secure environment. But if any one of these is compromised, then I don't have a secure environment. So, one of the certifications that follows your Azure Fundamentals is Azure Security. And Azure Security is going to be, you're mainly going to be concerned with all of this stuff, right? Your job is all of this stuff. Providing defense in depth, physical security, making sure that the devices that are in your organization are secure with behind locked doors that only people who have authorization to gain access to can gain access to it. Making sure you have administrative controls, documents, policies in place, things that are written saying that, hey, if you have this security clearance and you're able to get onto this machine, right? So physical, administrative, and technical control types also go in defense in depth. Technical control types, meaning anything I can technically configure on equipment, such as firewall rules, right? And getting into firewall rules, we're going to be talking about Azure stateful firewalls, which means stateful means it's dynamic. It means it adapts. It's going to notice anomalies in our network, such as somebody setting some type of DOS attack. A stateful firewall is going to create a rule. It's going to block that traffic from coming into my network. Azure offers that feature in its security. So you have to be able to go in there and modify inbound, outbound rules to mitigate against people sending malicious traffic into your network. Identity services, multi-factor authentication, MFA. This is a way to say, hey, if somebody compromised my password, at least they don't have my key fob that has a PIN number on it that allows me to actually log into my network. So not only do I need my password, but I also need something else, such as a phone with a key fob password or a 6-digit PIN number to actually be able to log into my network. We can actually implement these within Azure, right? And Azure Active Directory, AD, is going to allow us to create users in our network accounts to give them access into different folders in our network. Azure Security Center is going to give us ability to scan our systems for any vulnerabilities. It's going to give us ability to monitor devices, send alerts, and UTM, Unified Threat Management, is basically an all-in-one device that's going to allow us to, mitigate against spam filtering, content filtering, firewalls, VPN access into our network. All that is something within the Azure package that you can get depending on which package you purchase. But we're going to learn about some of these fundamental features that Azure offers. And reporting in Azure, we can use tags. Tags is like a keyword So if I wanted to get a report on all the machines on floor 1, I could create a tag that says any machine that is located on this floor, tag it with floor 1. That way I can run a report and say, filter out all machines on floor 1. As long as I created a tag that says this machine is associated with floor 1, I'll get a report back for all the machines located on floor 1. So this is what tags is, right? And Azure service, health, status, service, resources. These are ways that we can get health reports, or what we can call like a health check, right? I'm going to send an SNMP or some type of polling or heartbeat sensor to a machine. And if I don't get a reply back, then the status of that machine could be that it's down, right? If I do get a reply back, the status of that machine is that it's up and it's healthy. So I want some way to be able to send these health checks to check the status, to check the service. What service am I offering to the client? Maybe email. Is the email service up? I want some type of health check to monitor that service, right? Or resources. We talked about resources earlier, right? Computers, virtual machines, those are resources. Network is a resource, right? Creating those groups that we talked about. Anything that goes in those groups is a type of resource. I want to monitor those resources, make sure that they're up and available so people can work. And the last module over here, Azure Pricing and SLA. SLA stands for Service Level Agreement. And you're actually going to be able to go on and you have to, one of the things with Azure Fundamentals is that they ask a lot of questions on the exam about pricing structure, right? Because you're going to be the person responsible for, the manager comes to you and like, hey, Sean, we need you to kind of scope out how much you think it's going to cost for us to have, 10 servers in the cloud, moving our files and our email into the cloud. Can you give us, can you go look it up, or can you call Azure and ask them? Well, Azure has several subscriptions. We're going to look at these different tiered model approaches that they offer. And depending on what your organization needs, they got a different tier depending on, however big your organization is. And they have an awesome website. You can actually Google Azure Calculator, and it'll take you to a website where you can actually kind of click and drag. Hey, I need a server with 2 gigs of RAM and 100 gigs space of hard drive. And they'll tell you, oh, this server, if you want it, it's going to cost you 10 cents an hour, right? Or if you want a better server, it's going to cost you 25 cents an hour. And it adds up, right? 750 hours in a month, it'll add up. $1,000, $2,000, depending on, how powerful you want that machine to be in the cloud. And service lifecycle with Azure Pricing model, you get an evaluation where you can use all of these services for free. And that's how they try to coerce people into using their services. And you can also try out services that are unreleased. So you're going to get kind of a little exposure logging into an evaluation, so to speak, of some services you can use in the cloud and kind of mess around with it in the lab environment. Speaking of lab environment, you can create a virtual machine, right? Deploy Azure container instance. We talked about Docker and Kubernetes. Create a virtual network, right? These are some of the computing resources that you're going to be able to manage, right? We want to make sure our network is up. Implement Azure Internet of Things Hub. I want to manage all these smart devices in one central location without having to go to each and every wireless access point. If I have a building of 200 wireless access points, that's going to be a lot of devices I have to manage. I have to log into every one. But if I can log into one central location or a hub, it'll be a little bit simpler for me to administer those IoT devices. Azure Key Vault, right? We're going to have a hands-on lab. The Key Vault basically is a place where we can keep secret things secret, right? We're talking about passwords, certificates, passwords or certificates basically is what you can create in the Azure Key Vault. And unless you have an authorization to log into the Key Vault, you won't be able to access any of those secret passwords or certificates. And policies, same kind of thing as your on-premise device where you create GPOs. We can create policies for HIPAA compliance. We can create policies for PCI DSS, payment card industry. any type of security policy that you want to create, you'll be able to manage that in Azure, and you're going to get a little exposure in the lab on creating different policies. You might create a policy to have your computer go to sleep after 10 minutes, but that locks your computer. So there's different policies you can create and manage within Azure, just like you could do with your on-premise machine. All right, so this is a little interactive part. See who's all there still. Got a couple people here. You can type the answer in the chat box, but we're going to provide you guys with some practice exam questions during boot camp, so you'll be prepared to actually get your certification at the end of the week boot camp, right? Typically from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we can offer these in-house or remote. So it comes with hands-on lab, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and actual practice exams. So let's look at this question. When you are implementing a software as a service, you are responsible for which one? So we can say 1, 2, 3, or 4. Option 1, option 2, option 3, or option 4. What do you guys think? You can type it here in the chat box if you guys don't have mics. Or if you don't know, that's understandable too. This answer is actually going to be configuring the SaaS solution. Is the correct answer. Again, software as a service, pretty much you're not responsible for anything except for maybe configuring the SaaS solution, meaning you might have to install Office 365 on your machine, but other than that, that's it. What are 2 characteristics of a public cloud? So we're selecting 2 from this box. All right, so I see C. C is one answer. C is actually a correct answer, metered pricing, because I talked about pay as you go. What else can you do in a public cloud? What else is a characteristic of a public cloud? So another characteristic of a public cloud on top of metered pricing would be B, self-service management. So B and C are the correct answers here. And these are, basic example questions that you'll see on this Azure Fundamentals exam, right? Multiple choice, selecting, a drop-down tab, and then we got some click and drag answers, right? So not really any sims, so to speak. I heard Microsoft took away a lot of the sims due to the COVID and the amount of time that it took for people to actually do some of these sims, but you'll still get some of these click and drags. So click and drag, the definition over here with the word, in order. How would you order them over here? We got a cloud service that remains available after a failure occurs. So a cloud service that remains available after a failure occurs would be B, or number 2, fault tolerance, right? So if one machine goes down, I have another machine that's going to take over for that fault. A cloud service that can be recovered after a failure occurs would be 1, or A, disaster recovery. A cloud service performs quickly when demand increases. That would be dynamic scalability. And the last one, a cloud service that can be accessed quickly from internet. That would be low latency. All right. I see you, James. So, like I said, Azure Fundamentals Bootcamp starts October 29th. You can contact us at our information that's in the chat window, information that will be on the next slide. You can learn in classroom, you can learn via live remote if you want to stay at home. You can contact us at this phone number, it's our main office. You can email us if you would like to request more information on pricing of the bootcamp class, give us an email, and one of our trainers will reach out to you. And our website is atglearning.com. You can also reach us on LinkedIn, which I believe is in the chat. Follow us. We give you sometimes great discounts that can be seen on our LinkedIn website. Also, we offer a lot of educational material, such as these webinars. If you're interested in any of the certifications, we do these webinars from time to time. You'll be able to see those pop up on your LinkedIn feed if you follow us. Any questions? Any questions? What are the labs like? So the labs, you will have access. If you come in here, we have them on laptops. If not, then we'll give you remote access where you can log into a machine here. And the labs basically look as if you're actually in Azure. So you'll be in a simulated environment as though you were in Azure, and there's step-by-step instructions on what you need to do to accomplish a task. So an example of one of the labs I was giving earlier was creating a virtual machine. It's going to walk you through where you go into Azure, what do you click on, how do you actually create a virtual machine? It'll walk you through that. When you finish your Azure Fundamentals, not only will you have the certification, but now you have the knowledge of what is a virtual machine and how do I create a virtual machine in Azure. So there's probably about 12 labs. They're about 2 hours each. So they are, very hands-on, very step-by-step approach with instructions that each individual will be able to follow, in their own pace. So it's not a rushed thing. Good question. Any other questions? Yes, yeah, the labs do emulate the portal. You'll actually connect to portalazure.com and be able to kind of simulate what it would actually be like. It looks exactly the same. Pricing, that you have to contact the trainer, email, and all the information is in our in a chat window. But our email, you could email trainer@atglearning.com. Would probably be the best way to find out about the pricing. All right. Any other questions from James or anybody else? Thanks for joining us, guys. Again, follow us on LinkedIn, and I'll talk to you soon.